My name is Denise Turner. I'm the acting chief executive and board president for August Wilson House. So, what I do is basically I'm the leader over the entire organization. So, everything that has to do with the running and operation of the organization, the business, the fundraising, completing our capital project. As you know, we just completed our art space and just had a huge grand opening in August of last year. And so I just oversee all of that and I interface with the board through the program committee, which Chris Rawson, who's here today, is actually the chair of our program committee. So pretty much everything August Wilson House, that would be me. Um, and so just to talk a little bit about August Wilson House and what we stand for and what we do. Well, first of all, our formal name is Daisy Wilson Artist Community Incorporated, and that is named after August Wilson's mother, Daisy Wilson. If you come to our space, we're excited to show we have the restored apartment where August Wilson grew up with his mother and his siblings, and we call that actually Daisy Wilson's apartment. And where we honor that space where he drew the inspiration, just being with his siblings, being with his mother. And so that's one of the critical spaces in our building. So August Wilson House, what we stand for, well, initially our mission was threefold, and I'm happy to say that we've already checked off a major one, which is to restore the childhood home of August Wilson. So we've done that. The second thing is to offer robust community programming. And the third thing is to offer fellowships and residencies. And I'm happy to say that even though we didn't have a space, we were able to do that. But now this is a beautiful community asset. We're happy to share it with everyone. We particularly would like to thank the city of Pittsburgh, for all of the help that we've gotten and all of the assistance through the different administrations. The people, in particular, the Hill District, we love you so much. We hope that we are going to do a good representation of August Wilson and what he stood for. And just to segue into just supporting Black people, Black artistry. I mean, August is beloved by everyone, but his mission initially was to give Black people a voice where there was none. And we would like to carry that mission forward through our programming, which Chris can probably just talk a little bit more about that.
I always start when I'm talking to a group, particularly a group predominantly of Black people. Why is this elderly white guy talking about August Wilson to you? And I have to say, it's just my good luck. I was theater critic for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette when August's first play appeared on Broadway, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, in 1984. And my arts editor said, well, go to New York and review it. And that's when I met August Wilson standing outside the theater. And we started talking as two Pittsburghers meeting out of town did. We started talking about the Steelers, which is, of course, what you do. But then we talked about theater, and that started what really turned into a 20-some year friendship between him and me. I guess theater critics and playwrights aren't always good friends, but I recognize that this was an extraordinary man. He is one of the great playwrights of the world. I always kind of hold back and say he's one of the 5 great American playwrights, but you could say you can go more than that if you want to. And I just had the good luck of being a theater critic in Pittsburgh when he appeared on the scene. I was also an English professor at the University of Pittsburgh. And the last time I did a extensive interview with him, which was 2004, he said to me, well, why aren't you teaching a course in my works? And I said, well, I've been waiting for the Africana Studies Department or the theater department to do it. And he said, well, they're not doing it. And I said, okay, then I will. I'll do it when you finish your 10th play, which was coming up in the spring, Radio Golf. And he said, well, every time you teach my course, I'll come join in the class once during the term. So I put it down for the following winter, but by the time I taught that course, he had died. He died very suddenly at age 60. I mean, it's an extraordinary early death for a man who had so much creativity in him, so many plans. He just finished his 10th play of this series, in which he was writing a play, each one set in a different decade of the 20th century, but he had so many other plans. He had novels, he had a book of poetry, he had other plays, and then suddenly there he was, dead at age 60 of liver cancer. So going forward, the way I want to pay back in a small way for all he gave me was to help support August Wilson House, help support his legacy, not only from the past, but going into the future. And that's why I've been involved in August Wilson House. And the main way I've been involved is as chair of the program committee, although many people have helped in that way. Well, that's a really good question. His legacy, of course, is national. Pittsburgh is always slow to recognize great Pittsburghers. You know, if someone comes from Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh is quick to say, oh, well, then they can't be that great, unless, of course, they're athletes. But the fact of the matter is, August Wilson, I think you could say, is the greatest artist who's come out of Pittsburgh. I mean, match him up with Gene Kelly, match him up with Andy Warhol, match him up with all the jazz greats. August Wilson is the one who took the matter of Pittsburgh and put it on the stage in these 10 plays. He grew up on the Hill District. He spent his first 33 years there, and then he moved on to St. Paul and Seattle and New York and all the places where his plays were produced. But the material of his plays had infused him. He had learned about life on the Hill District, but then he took all the material of the Hill District, all the things that he'd heard the old guys talking about in the jitney stations and the diners and all the places on the street corners where he listened to people talk during his years in the Hill, and he made it the material of his plays. Those 10 plays, one of them is set in Chicago for a very special reason, but the other 9 plays are set in Pittsburgh, and they take the material of Pittsburgh and put it on stage. And no one had really done this in this way before. There was an objection from the Broadway producers that August plays were too long. He usually had to cut them down a little bit. They said, well, your guys seem to have an awful lot to say. And he said, yes, they do have a lot to say, and they haven't been allowed to say it on the Broadway stage before, which is true. I mean, there had been plays by Black playwrights, but no one who was accepted in the large way that August Wilson was. So he is the story not just of Pittsburgh, not just of the Hill District. He's the story of Black America. He's created classic Black plays. It's wonderful to see what's happened in the last few years. There have been a lot of Black playwrights emerging on Broadway. And we know that August Wilson opened the door for them. He opened the door also for a lot of Black actors. I mean, Viola Davis, for example, we all know about what she first became well known when she won a Tony Award in an August Wilson play. And there are a lot of other famous Black actors who've broken through in that way. He opened the door for a whole new range of artists and experiences. Several plays into his cycle, I said, well, August, all your plays are set in Pittsburgh, clearly on the Hill District, but not Ma Rainey. Why is that? And he very specifically said, well, you know, it was my first play. I'm from Pittsburgh. It was my first play on Broadway, and I just didn't think Pittsburgh was important enough. So I looked for another city I could set it in. And if you look at Ma Rainey, there's 1 or 2 references to some other place in Chicago, which is where he set it, because he had no idea really about Chicago. But then you look at the other 9 plays in the cycle, and they're just thick with references to places and people and all the whole history of Pittsburgh. And there is an 11th play, which a lot of people don't know about, which he wrote right in the final years for himself to perform. It's called How I Learned What I Learned. And it is a monologue, an autobiographical monologue of himself at age 20, uh, getting his first apartment on the Hill District on Crawford Street and figuring out how to get a job to earn enough money to pay the rent, to get girls to come back to the apartment, to meet people, to do all the kinds of things a young man wants to do. It's an autobiography, but it's written from the point of view when he was 58, looking back when he was 20, and it tells exactly the story you're telling, and it talks about jazz. Of course, the blues were the more important musical influence for August, but then jazz, black music of many kinds became hugely important to him. He wanted to do on the stage what music was doing for people orally.
Yeah, and I just want to echo, just how proud I am, to be a Pittsburgher in that realm, because Pittsburgh has always been known, as Chris I think may have said earlier, for sports. Remember the one year all three teams were the reigning champions, and so we've always been known. So when I travel somewhere and I say I'm from Pittsburgh, it's, oh, the Steelers, like black and gold. So, it's just the fact that Pittsburgh just has a larger landscape, for people to know who we are. And August Wilson did that for us. So I'm just, very proud of that fact.
I want to congratulate the University of Pittsburgh for getting the archive because it
Right.
took negotiation and it took money. I mean, this was important to Constanza Romero Wilson, August's widow. I mean, she had this archive. August hardly ever threw away a piece of paper. She had an archive of 450 boxes of materials that he'd left. And there were other universities and other libraries that wanted it. And she chose Pitt to be the place that it went. And what that's resulted in for us is it's made Pittsburgh the real center for August Wilson. Now, you might think that's obvious that we should be, but there are other places. The University of Texas has a collection of great American, not just playwrights, authors of many kinds. Yale University already has a collection of August Wilson material. So we were competing. We, the University of Pittsburgh, were competing with other schools, other cities, and we got that collection. And the result is that Pittsburgh now has the August Wilson House, the place where he grew up, the place where he started to get his sense of life in Pittsburgh. It has the archive at the University of Pittsburgh. It has the August Wilson African American Cultural Center downtown with its wonderful exhibit that they've created with Constanza Romero Wilson's help on the life and career of August Wilson. And it has the Hill District. And the Hill District is the place. I mean, it is the place where August grew up. It is the place then where he learned about life and put that back on the stage. So we are the center of August Wilson life going forward. And we have to put that to good use. I mean, we think there should be an August Wilson festival every couple of years with several people doing his plays at the same time. There were already people who come from around the world just to touch the bricks of the house where August Wilson grew up. Pittsburghers, as I've said before, don't always realize how important he is in the world of letters and in the world of culture, in the world of Black history, in the world of American history.
And I like to piggyback on that. So, Brandon, we have a program called August in the Schools, because we believe that August Wilson should be in the school curriculum, just like every other historical figure has been in schools. And so we've partnered with the U Prep school in the Hill District. They are the pilot school, and we've done some expanding. We have some other things that we are developing, what's called the August Wilson experience, which is going to weave in other parts of education. And what we do is we seek to have August in not just the Pittsburgh schools, but regionally and nationally. And so not just what he's going to mean to Pittsburgh, but how he will take Pittsburgh into other schools, through his teachings, through the plays. Our August in the Schools, it focuses on teaching. We hire teaching artists to go into the schools and teach children about the plays and oration. And we're expanding that to include other, what's the word I'm looking for? Trades, other trades, because trades, it's not just acting, it's not just writing. It's the behind the scenes and all of those things that go into costume design and makeup and things of that nature. So we will have a more expansive footprint, just in the educational realm. And I'm grateful for a lot of the teachers who have already reached out and come into our space, to tour it, to bring their students, and we will have educational programming and things of that nature. So, we're just grateful to pilot that movement.
We have a list of programs already running and things about to run on our website, augustwilsonhouse.org. And among those things are house tours. August Wilson House is not a museum, but it is a place obviously of interest because it contains the 2 rooms that the 6 children and 2 adults in that family lived in when August was young. We have a poetry workshop being taught by Adriana Ramirez and a creative nonfiction workshop being taught by Tony Norman. These are people with real names in Pittsburgh and nationally. We have Actors Talk August, an online series where nationally known actors and regionally known actors submit 2-hour-long interviews about their experience of August Wilson. And then we have, as Denise has already said, we have this big festival, Hill District Festival in the spring, marking August's birthday, but it's usually attracts, the last time we attracted about 7,000 people to this great block party. We'll be doing that again this year. And we have a play produced in the backyard theater space at August Wilson House each summer. There's a whole bunch of programs that we have going, and the best place to see those is through our website.
If I could take a moment to also just thank, because we have a partnership with the University of Pittsburgh, the August Wilson Archives, and they have stepped in anytime we've needed content. I mean, Cornelia and Ed over there, they're just awesome partners, and we're just really grateful for that. And I know Chris does not like the praise to be heaped, but he'll have to deal with it. Chris is the one who introduced us initially and had a more fuller, expansive relationship with Cornelia. And and we started doing a little bit of joint programming. We are participating in their grand opening coming up. It's just an overall, Chris knows I use the word blessing regularly because that's how I'm wired, to look at things as not as like good fortune, but as blessing. So, we're honored and blessed to have that personal relationship and that partnership with them for the archives, and we're excited about it. We have the distinction of being the only place in the world to honor August Wilson where he grew up, because there's many places that honor him, but to do so, a lot of our efforts had to concentrate on getting the space built out. So a lot of that fundraising efforts went towards that, but we definitely need operation dollars just like anyone else, and to try to finish a capital project in COVID was definitely challenging. So